This is Gilgamesh. It's Christmas Eve, so I want to talk about a few things. One, I want to, go into something I have noticed people talk about, Star Wars. Why does Disney own Star Wars? I've said this in a video before. How do they end up owning Star Wars back in around, 2012? Okay. The reason George Lucas sold it was the haters. The people that hated the prequels after 7 years of silence, because 2005, that's when Revenge of the Sith. I love the prequels. I do. I thought, I understood what George Lucas was doing, but the people that hated the prequels, when he announced in, I think it was 2012, that he was going to do a new trilogy, they said, no. They went after him. He got remarried. He has a daughter. They didn't listen to any of what he was saying about how he wanted to spend time with his daughter, the trilogy was going to be the Leia trilogy. Most people didn't know this. He did the son, then the father. Now he's going to complete with the daughter, Leia. But people didn't hear everything he said. He said that, it takes him 10 years to make one of these trilogies, and he wanted to spend more time with his daughter, unlike he did with his kids when he worked on the other Star Wars. So what I got was he most likely was going to direct the first one, then hand it off to two other directors like he did with the original trilogy, and might have brought Lawrence Kasdan back in to help him flesh out the script. And instead, we didn't get that. Because these, and his wife, I think, does work for Disney. So she sees all the hatred, and he was looking, she was thinking, why don't you sell the company? So he initially goes to Paramount, offers to sell it to them. They offer him what he said was the reason he didn't sell it to him was they offered what he thought was a low bid. So then she suggests Disney. So he goes and sits down, meets with Bob Iger. I'll tell you right now, Bob Iger was never going to touch anything George Lucas because of the hatred of the prequels. These people, they didn't like George Lucas. So that's why Bob Iger didn't touch his ideas for the new trilogy. So, keeps Kathleen Kennedy on board, and she's done everything to destroy George Lucas's legacy. And here's the thing. They celebrated when it was announced, when he just said he'll sell it to Disney, people were happy. They were like, yes, George Lucas is worse than Hitler. Thank God Disney will own it and save it. They were spunking over this. And then the announcement was made. Disney owns it. They were like, yes. Same people who hate George Lucas were celebrating, yes, the evil is God. Disney saved Star Wars. And I said, just like Padme said in Revenge of the Sith, so this is what she said. So this is how the Republic dies in loud applause. I said, this is how Lucasfilms dies in loud applause when these people went, yes. And so they clapped it, they celebrated it. And then when they announced the new trilogy, they said J.J. Abrams, Rian Johnson, and the guy who did the fourth Jurassic Park, the new trilogy, I went, oh, God. I can't stand Abrams. Everything he does is shit. I saw Lost. It was crap. They didn't have an idea of how to end this show. They wanted to. The actual two guys that he left, Leinberg, or I forget the two guys that were in charge after Abrams walked away to ruin Star Trek, wanted to cancel it, wanted to end the show early, but ABC said no. So they had no idea what they were doing. And the show ends like crap. It was a crap show. Alias, I couldn't stand Alias. I thought it was shit. Felicity was crap, not because Carrie Russell cut her hair. The show was crap from the beginning. Abrams doesn't create anything good. Well, the first season of, Westworld was okay. It was fine. It went to shit after that. But that's typically Abrams and a fucking male feminist. These people spunked themselves out when they saw the directors. The third one was fired. Rian Johnson, Abrams, and Rian Johnson said this, had never had one conversation about how to work their two stories together. Yeah, he had with Justin, I forget his name, the guy who was doing the third one, The Rise of Skywalker. They had been in communication. And Abrams says this when asked about 2 characters, Snoke and Rey. Are you going to explain who they are? He said, no, I'll leave it up to Rian Johnson. You're going to create 2 characters, and you're not going to tell anything about him. You're going to leave it up to the next director. No wonder he killed Snoke off and said Rey was a nobody. Abrams, you shitbag. You wish you were Spielberg. Oh, and I hate E.T., and he made a movie worse than E.T. E.T. retarded, but I saw people going, yes, The Force Awakens is so good. And this one thing cracked me up was Colbert did a sit-down interview with Harrison Ford and Abrams. And you walk, and Harrison Ford's on the last, and he's talking to Colbert, and he lays it down that, oh my God, it's so fucking hilarious. He's telling that, yeah, he only agreed to do this if they would kill his character off. Abrams is pissed. You go look this up. I think it's on. You might find it on YouTube. It was funny as hell watching Abrams go. He's getting this angry look, so he finds a way to kill off Han Solo in the stupidest way possible. And I was laughing my ass off at this because Harrison Ford originally said he wanted Han Solo killed off in Return of the Jedi, which hell, Lawrence Kasdan agreed with that. But George Lucas had other plans. Then, when he's sitting down with all the actors telling what the new trilogy, this is why Harrison Ford was excited. Not so when Disney bought it. And Mark Hamill even said this. They were all really excited when George Lucas still owned it till he sold Disney, and then it's like, oh shit. So yeah. So Disney didn't kill off Star Wars. The people who hated George Lucas's prequels destroyed Lucasfilms. Catherine Kennedy she was a hell of a producer early, but she's been shit, and she's been trying to destroy George and Disney, George Lucas's legacy, and it's worked. To the point that he's building a museum, and he's only putting one thing from Star Wars, and that's from the prequels, a ship, and that's it. He won't talk about Star Wars. He recently came out and said, "It is Disney. This is Disney's. I don't have nothing to do with it." So all the haters, who have, in some cases, have said, yes, the prequels are better than the new stuff. They still hate it. I've heard this over, Lucas is the big problem with the prequels. No, it's you. See, George Lucas was a 12-year-old boy when he used to go to the theaters to watch Flash Gordon as a kid. Didn't know that, did you? Didn't know George Lucas, when he was a kid, they didn't have TV. They had radio. If you saw Christmas Story, that's pretty much George Lucas. And he would go and watch Flash Gordon to the point that in the early 70s, he had an idea he wanted to do a movie based on Flash Gordon. So he goes to Dino De Laurentiis, and he asks him if he can make a Flash Gordon movie, and he turns him down. And so he takes that idea of Flash Gordon, turns it into Star Wars, and he takes from Hidden Fortress to bring R2-D2 and C3. Now, if you look at Flash Gordon, the characters get rid of the droids, and you look at the cast of Star Wars, you actually see Flash Gordon. Luke Skywalker is Flash Gordon. Erin, I think that's her name, is Leia. Timothy Dalton, who is James Bond, is actually Han Solo, the leader of the Hawkmen. That guy, he's essentially Chewbacca. The guy with the mask and the ring, that's Vader. And Ming is Palpatine. There you go, people. Yeah, you can see where Star Wars came directly from that. George doesn't care anymore. And in a way, he didn't care about the haters. Jake Lloyd's parents said it. We never showed him the death threats and everything. All the haters saying, we're going to find your son, we're going to kill him. I never understood why people hated Jake Lloyd. I thought he was great. Natalie Portman sucks at acting. But for Star Wars, for its goofiness and everything, it worked. Her shitty acting worked for the movie. Hayden Christensen was amazing as Anakin Skywalker. I didn't understand why people give her a pass and shit on him, Jake Lloyd, and Armin Best. First of all, the only thing Armin Best hated the only thing he didn't like was the way his character sounded. Not the way he talked, the way he was acting, because that was him. And by the way, Armin Best is a musician and a singer. So he had to learn Pidgin, like all the actors who played the Gundams. He had to learn Pidgin, which is the language of Papua New Guinea. Something George Lucas loved languages. He did. That's why he came, he thought about Pidgin was perfect for the Gundams. And think about it. In Australia, the Aborigines send their sons out on a walkabout to become, they have to go out and prove themselves before they come back to become men. So in a way, they kick Jar Jar Binks out because he's essentially, even though he looks like an adult, he's essentially a teenager. He's goofy. He's like any other kid. Look at the way he acts. By the time he comes back, they think he's an adult. They make him a general. By the second movie, after, like anybody who hasn't seen somebody in a long time, he acted very goofy at first. Oh, Annie, you look so big. Anakin shuts him down. He goes back to being a more adult Jar Jar Binks. By the third film, he's not even the goofy kid he was, the goofy Jar Jar Binks from the first movie. Y'all forgot he was even in Revenge of the Sith. Yeah. So, yeah. A lot of people, they just don't want to recognize the genius of George Lucas. Leia was a feminist character. Look, she was bossy, like all feminists. She was, and think about it, this is how goofy Star Wars was. She almost got everybody crushed in a trash compactor to get down there. And so they go down and almost get killed, and it's the droids that save them. Leia, by the time we get to Return of the Jedi, was an uninsured person that Luke has to get her back her confidence by asking her, what do you remember about your mom? She was crying. She remembers her mother crying. I'm not talking about the woman who raised her. She's talking about the moment they were born. Because Padme was crying before she died. When she gave birth, because giving birth, any woman can tell you, is painful as hell. Yeah, it hurts. And yeah, you'll get teary-eyed. And she also was dying because of her husband. Because of a broken heart. So yeah, that's what she remembers. And when he brings up about the Force and her being his sister, she goes, meaning that when he mentioned Vader's his father, she goes, I kind of always knew that Vader was her dad. Yeah. So, yeah, and that's why she named her third child after her father, Anakin. She didn't hate Anakin. I know there's a video that somebody made showing her tell her father to go away. She wouldn't have done that. She didn't hate her father. Like Luke, she came to understand that what happened wasn't his fault. And so, yeah, and the things George showed was the downfall. How Anakin's downfall was so tragic because he was so young that he was what you would call hope. And seeing that hope being taken away when he sees his mother and she dies, and then worrying about losing his wife, and the only one who offers help him is Palpatine. It's Dark Sidious, and the Jedi don't give a shit about him. Yeah, that's what I know. People didn't like seeing the Jedi being portrayed as, but you gotta go back, 1,000 years ago or so when they thought they wiped out the Sith. That's why they didn't know the Sith were back until they saw Darth Maul, and then they were questioning, how could the Sith be back? They thought they had wiped him out. Yeah, but I just find it funny. George Lucas, in a way, got revenge on all the haters by selling to Disney. They got what they asked for. Disney owns it, and he said it. They can do what they want with it. I ain't gonna save it. I'm done with Star Wars. That's why he's focused on the museum, and he doesn't care anymore. So I just want to bring that up. I could have mentioned a few people I've heard talk about how, prequels are better than the new stuff. Yeah, you think that now. You still hate the prequels, but you want to say they're better than what Disney's done? Yeah, because Disney doesn't give a shit. Okay, that being out of the way, let's get to the first big thing I wanted to talk about. Warner Brothers being sold. Oh, my God, I hear so many people putting videos saying Netflix won, Paramount lost. No. And Hostile Takeover, you haven't seen Hostile Takeover. Okay. Netflix will never own Warner Brothers. Nope. See, right now, things haven't settled down to where the regulators, the FCC comes in, and Pam Bondi won't have to run looking into this. She'll put somebody in the Department of Justice to investigate this antitrust against Netflix, because this deal is shit. Remember, Paramount offered $30 per share for Warner Brothers, and they said that's a low bid. So that's when they told, we're going to listen to all offers. They listened to Netflix.